The opinions expressed in the following program are those of the producer and not necessarily those of WKTV Community Media.
Family-owned Palermo Pizza underwrites this episode of Grand Rapids Ghost Hunters Paranormal Podcast, located at 901 Gazan Parkway, Southwest Wyoming, and available at 616-531-8300.
Hey everybody, this is Brandon Jose. Welcome to another episode of the Grand Rapids Ghost Hunters podcast. Today's guest is Tonya. I'll let you pronounce your last name because I always trip over it.
It's Geier-Seger.
Okay.
Hi everybody, my name is Kim Colleen and I've been with the Grand Rapids Ghost Hunters Paranormal Podcast for the last 2 years. And we had Tonya on a previous episode and we asked her to come back and she graciously accepted the challenge. So welcome back, Tonya. It's glad to see you again.
I'm glad to see you guys too.
Yeah, so why don't you give us a brief description of all of the, what do I say? Like accomplishments that you've had or talents.
Or my magnitude of gifts I seem to have.
Yeah, gifts. We want to know your gifts. So I know the list is kind of extensive, but
surprisingly, it seems to keep growing.
Does it really?
It feels like I discover something new as I develop, as time goes on more and more.
Sure. So start from the basics that the maybe average Joe would recognize, and then go on to some more detailed things that, and maybe with an explanation of what your talent is.
Yeah. So for me, what started out is the ability to see spirits ever since I was young. And I mean, a lot of children can do that. It's just, if you live in a society where they tell you it's your imagination or you're seeing things.
Imaginary friend or whatever.
Yeah, a lot of kids can easily ignore it and it goes away. But there are kids out there like myself that they didn't go away. Actually, it seemed to always get worse because the scareder I got, or this, I've seen, and I've been around other kids where I've watched the scareder they get, the more things are attracted to them. And it's like, I realized it's an energy that they feed off of. And that took me years to discover that. But once I understood I could see them, that's when I started hearing things and hearing voices or getting messages that people can explain. And a lot of times I tell people things that there's no way a kid could know. Like for one, I told my cousin Jason I was going to marry a man named Jason. I was about 8 or 9 years old. My husband's name is Jason, and we've been together. We've been married almost 20 years next month. So it's like, that's when I realized as time was going on, I was hearing things. So it became visual and audio then.
Yeah. Do you feel like the spirits that you saw when you were younger fed off from your fear or more just your energy? I mean, did they show up more because you were fearful or not necessarily?
I think the ones that weren't so nice would show up more when I was scared. Yeah. But I think a lot of the times it was, I couldn't control my energy. So I was like, I tell people all the time, anybody with gifts that can see or have any connection to spirit, you're a little lighthouse. You're going to just call anything that comes around, and you have to be very cautious because anything will take advantage of that. And I had to learn on my own how to keep that, especially the fear, because negative things like to feed off of your fear. So it's like I had to learn to keep that controlled. So now I go into places and people are like, oh, I'm so scared. I'm like, of what? I'm not scared. I don't let them, if they try to scare me, I know that's them trying to get something I won't give, and that's power. I'm like, well, I'm keeping my power to myself.
Yeah, but when you're little like that, that's just something that's self-taught. You don't really know what to do at that point. So
yeah,
how do you turn that off as a child? How do you turn the negative away?
A lot of times when I was a kid, like a lot of I'd start to, when I see things were nightmares. I would have absolute, and a lot of times the kids with that gifts, they'd have absolute positive night terrors. I mean, I would be waking up hysterically sobbing, and there's nothing my mom could do to calm me down. She just had to let me calm myself down till I could actually realize I'm awake. I'm talking to my mom. I'm safe. When that happened, I would wake up, I'd go through that moment, but then I'd tell myself, I'd actually lull myself to sleep, and I would chant, there's no such thing as nightmares. And I would go back to sleep and I wouldn't have any more bad dreams. Well, I realized as I got older, I still can do that sometimes as an adult, where I'll wake up in the middle of the night for something that terrifies me. And I'm like, and I'll lull myself back to sleep saying there's no such thing as nightmares, because we're in a vulnerable state when we're asleep. So as a kid, it's more terrifying then as it is now, because I couldn't understand it. I didn't understand what was going on. And it was actually them communicating with me, giving me messages. It's just, it got so overwhelming, because you guys know just as well as I do, being in paranormal investigator, just like you guys, spirits like the nighttime, because we've had the day to build up all of this energy for them to go, oh, it's like batteries everywhere. Let's just go have fun, or go be seen or make mischief or whatever they're going to do. And so it's like, I tell people all the time, we can paranormal investigate any time of day. It's just, they're more active at night, because now
it seems that way, doesn't it?
Well, everything's calming down on the physical plane, after building up all that energy for them to take advantage of while it's quiet. Like, so it just makes it easier.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's like, for mine, it's like you can go anywhere and get evidence. Like they're still around all the time, but it's like, especially like why we investigate more at night, it's not, for mine, it's not as much the activity, it's just everything else around is quieter, so you can notice them easier, because they're not, you don't have all the background noise, everything else that's all going on, that, especially with them, with how hard it is to get through, like when it's quieter, it's easier for them to get through.
Yeah. Oh, I did investigation with the team. Actually, it wasn't with my team, because I had a couple of friends go with me, because it was an emergency, and we took care of something negative in a homeowner's house that, I mean, there were so many voices coming through the box. There were so many different voices, to the point where it actually started mimicking our voices. And at one point it said my friend Anne said her name, and I had to look at her and to think, because I thought she was talking, and it wasn't. It was something mimicking her through the voice, or through the box, saying her name. And since I've developed my abilities and gifts as time gone on, I've learned we have healing in our family on my mother's side. So it's a weird line, but even in my great grandfather's obituary, my older sister was doing genealogy. It found his healing touch was well known, written in his obituary.
Wow.
And I told my mom, I was like, I told you that's the side of the family it came from. I've learned how to work with energy because of those healing gifts, that I can use energy to help clear people's houses if it's negative. So while we were doing the house, I was like, well, it's time to get rid of these nasty things, because I don't let anything I won't let anything happen to people. That's not right. Negative needs to go away. As I'm doing the energy work to clear the house, they're hearing my voice coming through as I'm meditating. And her son, my friend's son, Matt, her son named Matt, kept looking at me thinking I was talking. And I was sitting there, you meditate, you're quiet, I was not saying anything. And he goes, I swear to God, that was you. And I said, because they mimic, the evil ones can mimic us, and it's scary. And at one point we did hear each one of theirs.
like the ghost box or something, the mimicking. Yeah.
It was like that. We could hear our voices crystal clear. The last round of energy bursts that I did to clear the house, I almost came out of my meditation because I swear I heard me arguing on the spirit plane with the entity I was trying to get to leave. And it almost knocked me out. It's like I could not hear, and it's like it's weird to even hear yourself come through something like that, knowing you are not talking. Yeah,
well, I just wanted to say something on that end, because I think, at least on some of the times on our investigations too, it's where your spirit, comes back to help you during that investigation. So sometimes you're picking up your actual self. Like because like a lot of times we've done recordings where it will sound like one of our voices, and we know it's not, but it will act like that. But it's even when it's not necessarily something negative, but maybe it's ourselves in the future kind of coming back to try to pass on information to ourselves.
I've had that same thought process, because there's been times as I was a kid, I thought I heard myself, where I'm like walking and we're walking in a store and I swear I heard my own voice calling my name. Where with this, I knew it was mimicking us to fool us, because it was not good. It needed to go. It was brought in, conjured, whatever, because somebody at one point in time did something they shouldn't have, which most like time, if you guys ever experienced it in your investigations, I've had a few where somebody played with the Ouija board.
Yeah.
Because they think it's a toy, and it's like, it's a powerful tool.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's your number one thing, is that you can see spirits, talk to spirits. We know that you have healing power now. Add to the list. I know there's more.
I can communicate with animals. And that interestingly enough, goes with knowing energy fields, understanding, because their energy is a different wavelength than what ours is, because they're pure souls. I mean, nothing can really, like, as a human, we can be corrupted. There's things in life that can make us think one way or think another, or we can have, some sort of mental or chemical imbalance within our body that can make us, there's many different things that can affect a person. Where when it comes to animals, there's not that many. They can have bad experiences, but they've been in abusive home, but when they get to the next home, they don't want to think about that. They want to worry about focus on where they're at. It was funny because I've been watching a lot of Cesar Millan lately. And
I love him.
I love him. And I was like watching what he was saying. I kind of sat there, I was like shocked. And my mom had come to visit, and she was like, "Why are you so shocked about this?" I said, "Because that's what I've been saying for years about animals when I talk to them, is people get all, oh my God, they were abused. They have such a horrible life." No, they don't even think about that. They're worried about the present. They don't live in the past. And I said, and too many of us, especially when I've done readings, we get so lost in living in the past of our woulda, coulda, shouldas, that we forget to live in the now.
So when you talk to animals, is it primarily a certain kind of animal? Like, is it more cats versus dogs, or dogs versus cats, or
it's anyone that wants to talk?
Okay. Do you feel like one certain animal communicates better?
I have a connection with out of domestic animals. I have a better connection with dogs, especially male dogs. I just know I do much better with male dogs.
Yeah, I wonder why.
We have 2 collies in our house, and our male Hamish, he's my boy. He is mine. He will knock over anybody to get to me. Not really. He'll actually go around them, but he will come to me over everybody else.
Yeah.
We have our female.
Dog does too.
It's great. Those kind of bonds are great.
I love it.
But we have a female collie named Minette. And from the moment we got this dog, she was my daughter's dog from the beginning. So she likes to give me a little bit of headbutt when I try to show I'm the alpha in the house. Between we're all of humans are alpha and you're not. And she'll look at me going, "You're not Kyrie."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "No, you're still gonna
a cat like that." Yep, totally.
And then we do have 2 cats in our house that are quite stubborn.
Yeah, we do too.
That's
We have
what I
a
was
stuffed
thinking on the connection thing, is just because dogs are much more extroverted, want your attention, want your affection.
Yeah.
That's why I think they'd be easier. Whereas cats, every cat I've had has a completely different personality. Like, whereas dogs tend to have, well, breed, there's a little bit of difference between different dog breeds, but tend to have more kind of a similar personality. Whereas cats, they can be all over the place.
Right.
We have one that he is absolutely he's absolutely terrified, but my eight-year-old daughter can do whatever he wants to him. But we're the nice ones, and he will not come near us. He's like, no.
No.
And then we have another one, which their names are Tango and Cash.
Mm-hmm.
And that's Cash. Cash does not want nothing to do with us. He's a weird cat. But then we have Tango, where absolutely obsessed with hair ties.
Yeah.
If you throw him a hair tie, he is your best friend. But he's my husband's cat. He will choose my husband out of all of us. Except for at night when he tries to kick me out of the bed. There's times where I think that cat thinks he's a dog.
So what else?
So energy work is definitely my biggest one. I've been focusing a lot lately, which works, like I said, with that one, it works hand in hand with the healing. Funny story about that is because I told my mom about my gifts of the healing that ran in the family. Me and my grandmother, I guess, I didn't realize this when I was young, but she was we would have, when she got sick and she couldn't live by herself, she'd live with my grandmother. And her daughter lived with one of her daughters, and for part of the time, and then lived with her other daughter the other part. We would have psychic conversations, and I never understood, because when we would be in there, it felt like we talked forever and never uttered a word when I leave. And at 16 years old, you're still like, what the heck does all this mean? You're not understanding it. But when she passed, I was living out in New Mexico while my husband was in the service, and she came to me as soon as she was able to, and she goes, "Now is your time." And I was like, very cryptic. I just let it go because that's all she said. Well, I had a friend come up to me, and I love all my friends, but he was a fun one because he, in a drunken stupor or on some other things, he decided to carve an X a cross into his wrist or his arm. And I looked right at him, and I said, I was like, "What the heck were you thinking?" And he goes, "I really wasn't." I was like, "You just got to roll your eyes to that." And I said, "I actually could help you with that." Because he said it's been open for like 2 weeks and it doesn't feel like it's healing. And I just, out of the blue, looked into the guy, I can help you with that. And he goes, "Okay." And I took his arm and I put my hand over it, and I closed my eyes, and I focused all of my energy for healing energy, asking the body, hey, basically when I do it, I'm asking the body, "Hey, we have a spot that's not right. Please bring more of your energy or the white blood cells or whatever you need to do to make it better." And this was like very cryptic when I was doing it, but I did it. The next week he came back, it was almost completely healed.
Wow.
And he goes, "I don't know what you did." He goes, "But can you do it again?" And I said, "Why?" And he goes, "Well, another episode." And I was like, "Dude, stop doing what you're doing." Somebody took a cigar and put it out on him in the middle of the cross. I was like, "If you do this again after this, I'm not doing it anymore."
Oh my God.
So I did it again. And then the next week we saw him because we were at a dart. My husband is a dart player. So we were at a dart league, I believe that was and he came back and it was completely healed the next week. And he goes, "I don't know what you did."
Yeah.
And I said, "That was my first time ever doing it, so I'll never forget it." But it made sense because that was almost about 3 to 6 months after my grandmother passed, and came to me after she passed and said, "Now is your time."
Yeah.
And it made sense then because it's like, oh, And then after that, I worked towards developing it and honing it and understanding energy works. I'm using energy and understanding the energy fields a little bit better. So now, because I'm focusing some more on that, because I want to make the healing a little bit stronger, everybody has this instinct when you go around somebody, you know, if they're not good just from that instinct. Well, a lot of times I don't even have to go near somebody and go look at somebody and go, don't mess with them. That's not a good feeling. Just go away. Now, because it's like my energy is sending it out, reading the energy field before and coming back to me. It's really neat because then I have learned to communicate with stones that way.
Communicate with what?
Stones.
Stones. Okay, yeah. Show me.
I will. I have one.
Okay, I want to see this. Tonya talks to stones.
This is my amethyst.
Oh, that's a pretty one. Yeah.
Yeah, she's a little less bright than most amethysts.
Yeah, but she's not really, it's not real purpley, is it?
No, not really. She's kind of more grayish purple than purple itself.
Yeah.
And actually, that's what drew me to her, was that she wasn't as bright. And because I'm one of those that I like to be more stealthy about things and be more quiet. Like I'll sit back, observe things before I say anything.
Sure.
And with her, I've had her for 3 years now. And I refer to my stones as hers.
That's okay. I was going to ask you why it's a her.
It feels right. It's from Mother Nature. So it feels right calling them hers. Of course, if I think about it, a lot of things in my life I refer to as hers. Like I was up at Cedar Point. I call the coasters hers, and people are like,
okay.
Mechanical things. You hear guys call cars hers all the time.
That's true.
But yeah, there's an energy field to them. So like there's a shop here in Columbus, Ohio that I love. I go to it all the time. If I'm buying stones for people, I'll go in and people look at me, and I actually told people what I'm doing. I'll go in and I'll know which certain stones, if I'm looking for quartz or amethyst or juniper or something, that's specifically for that person that needs to be healed or help them boost at the time. And then I just pick them up and I'll close my eyes. And if I feel, I'll think of that person. If they're if I'm buying it for them, if I feel warmth coming through my energy or through my body, I know it's for them. But if I don't feel that warmth, it's not for them. And that's kind of when I picked her up the first time. It just kind of felt like, hi, old friend. I was like, that's mine. She's mine. She's come home with me. My husband was like, you came in looking for one, and it was meant to be yours.
And you can do that for people.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's funny because people have gifts, and it's just taking the time to develop what you know you have. Because once you figured that one out, something else will come along and show itself to you as you go. And it's because your body is so, for me, my energy as a kid was focused so much on understanding you are actually seeing dead people that I didn't know about any of the others. But once I learned to calm myself down, embrace what I can do, what I can see, then the voices came and the pictures and the images. Then it was calming that down and understanding that as step by step. And everybody that has gifts or has the ability to hone into it and fine tune it, eventually develop something new or discover something new. The one thing I know I have so much issues with, which I'm okay if I don't develop or hone it, is the smelling part. Because sometimes there's smells I just don't want to smell.
Oh, geez.
Which I'm okay with that. I have a twin sister. She has the ability to smell a little bit better than me, and she can keep it. She can keep it.
So explain that. I don't understand that. Like
Mhm.
you could just be sitting there and smell something, and that's related to a spirit.
A lot of times, like you've heard of Mansfeild Reformatory here in Ohio, right?
I haven't personally, but maybe Brandon has.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
I love that facility. I love it. So with that one, there's a story that goes with it. And the reason I'm bringing this up is we actually smelled it. Me and three other women actually smelled this. The story is that the warden's wife was reaching up it was Sunday. She was reaching up to get something to get ready to go to church. And she accidentally knocked the warden's gun off of the top shelf and it discharged. And she later died in the hospital. It is said that you can smell her rose perfume if she's around. This particular event I went to was actually my first time ever ghost hunting and using my abilities to do that. My mom actually took me with my older sisters. So I have four sisters, but one was under the age of 18, so she couldn't go.
Yeah.
And so it was me and my two older sisters and my twin with my mom. And eventually I kind of ditched my sisters and went out with a couple other women, which I would love to do an experiment with that place because it seems like women get more evidence than men. But I think it's because it's a male prison. That's a whole other story. But we went up to the warden's home, up to the second floor in the warden's home, and the four of us women were standing around, and I didn't say it first. I smelled it, but I didn't say it first. But I heard one of the women beside me go, "I smell roses." And she's like, "You smell it too?" And I just kind of smelled. I was like, "Yeah, I smell it as well." And then the fourth woman was like, "Yeah, it's really strong." So we think the warden's wife was enjoying having some women around in a men's prison, because eventually I was talking to her, psychically telling her, we can smell it. It was a beautiful rose scent. I mean, it wasn't like old, like sometimes you get some of those rose smells that smell like soapy. It wasn't, it was almost like smelling a real rose. So it was really nice and really pretty. And I was psychically telling her, I can see you, I can hear you, we are smelling you, but can you give us more proof? After I kind of said that to her, I watched one of the women grab her friend, and the other one, the other woman standing beside me on my right, grabbed the pole to the stairs to walk upstairs, and they were like, "Whoa!" All three of them were like, "Whoa!" Because I was like, "What's going on?" And she goes, "It feels like we're standing on a waterbed, like the ground underneath their feet was feeling like they were moving like this." And I was like, I didn't think I was going to be that quick. But it was neat, because then eventually I did feel it. I eventually felt it, because I was like, oh wait, there it is. And I actually had to grab a hold of the one lady that was holding onto the pole, because I was like, I don't want to fall. It was an interesting experience getting to understand it, because like I said, that was my first time doing it on an investigation.
Sure.
Yeah, I've had an experience like that too. It was like Paddock Place in Grand Rapids, where like we're all sitting there, like all of a sudden, like it just feels like someone's jumping on a trampoline almost, you know, like that. It's like sensation of like the energy kind of going through. And like in terms of the scent one, I did have one torrent house in Muskegon where like all of a sudden I just started smelling like, well, me and like the medium that was there was Steve Wilson, who was on kind of one of our earlier like episode 10 or around there. We've had him on our show, but we were investigating there. He's from Australia. And so we were investigating one. We both were seeing like this older lady there that we didn't, like I had just showed up and he had seen her earlier. And when I came in, I seen it, talked to one of like our team members, like, well, he just seen that same person earlier before you got here. When I was there, all of a sudden I started getting the smell like later on of like fresh baked cookies, like really strong, like out of the oven.
Wow.
And there's no logical thing of, because there's nobody's making cookies in this library. So, but it used to be a home. But
I've had that with cookies, and it used to be when my grandmother came to visit, because I had a grandmother who passed that she loved to bake, and anytime she would come around, I would always smell cookies. And of course, I'm thinking it's one of my candles, at first. So you're logically going to go, nope, that's not it. That's not it. And then after I'd leave like certain spot, it was gone. So yeah, the smelling thing, I don't have it. My sister can. I've been with her places where she was like, oh my God, what's that? Oh, that's like a rancid smell. And I'm like, I don't smell it. And she's like, how can you not? And I was like, because I'm not supposed to. I don't think I want that one. Making if you get some bad smells, I don't think I want that one.
Yeah. Now, does your mom?
Where I've smelt it before though.
Now, since you and your sister have some gifts, what about your mom?
My mom never wanted to embrace hers.
Okay.
She's got that natural intuition. If something's not right, she'll know it.
Yep.
But when my dad died when I was 2 years old. So when he passed, she immediately was like, Tim, because that's his name. I know you're here. I just don't want to see you. I don't want to. And weird things actually happened in our house. I mean, they did not happen until after he passed. I mean, my older sister had experiences in that house where she's a early teenage girl. So she would blare her music. One night she goes, she thought the neighbors were talking outside, and she kept looking outside and she couldn't see anybody or see any neighbors in the house or anything that would make any kind of noise. Well, as time was going on, the volume kept getting louder. And she's like, wow, they have to be having like some sort of party or something. Comes to find out, something had turned on her stereo and changed the radio station because it wasn't her normal radio station, and was slowly turning the volume up. She thinks that was she swears it was probably our dad. She thinks that was our dad. One night we were in the living room or our family room towards the back of our house, and some noise was made in the kitchen. Like my older sister heard it and she goes, Mom, I think there's something going on in the kitchen. There's something in the kitchen. And my mom's like, no, it's just house settling noises. So eventually she gets up because she's tired of hearing it. And she goes and checks. Something turned the stove on, and we were never in the kitchen at all that day, except for to get into the fridge to get a drink or something. I was like, Dad, that's not funny.
No.
So, I mean, my sisters, we have gifts in our family. Like I said, everybody has gifts. It's just whether or not they choose to use them. I mean, I know my sister was sensitive because she would, especially my older sister, Michelle, she would always catch things like that in the house. The day my dad died, I started sleepwalking in that house. I sleepwalked every night when we were in that house till the day we moved. After we moved, I have never sleepwalked since.
But you were only 2 years old, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
My mom was like, it was the night he died. She goes, I started sleepwalking.
Oh my goodness.
And it was only in that house. So
I wonder if your dad had an attachment in that house somewhere.
I think he was there to watch over his girls.
Yeah. And he didn't follow you.
Oh, he does. He just wasn't.
Okay.
I don't think he was as visual or audio as we moved on because we were getting older. So we weren't really aware of it as much. That, and I don't think he had the connection to that house when we moved as he did with the old house because he used to live there.
Right.
I think that energy makes it easier for him to have come back. Where with us, he comes, he visits me. We've had conversations. He's warned me about things for my sisters and told me to tell my sisters things or my mom things. A lot of times you're going to have to tell them because they don't believe me.
Oh my goodness.
Half the time they don't believe me. And well, I know that for a fact with my one sister is when we were heading towards Mansfield for that first hunt ever, I told my mom and my sisters, I said, Dad's with us tonight. And my mom was like, what? I said, Dad's with us. I said, he's not so much worried about me or my twin sister Gwen or my older sister Michelle. I said, he thinks we'll be fine. I said, he's more here for you, Mom, because she didn't want to see. And for my sister Heather, who's a scaredy cat. She was at that time, she was any little noise, she would scream and run.
So
he was
Dad
there for him.
trying to warn you? So I don't understand what Dad was trying to say.
with the investigation.
Yeah.
He wasn't trying to warn me. He was just trying to tell them he was there because mom didn't want
Oh.
to see. Which funny thing was, when we took the tour of the prison before they let us go run loose and investigate, my mom got physically ill inside the prison.
Oh no.
To the point where she couldn't go past the warden's house, because we were in the main part, the bottom portion of the warden's house, where we started out our evening. And that was also where the museum was for the prison at the time. And we went out to the facility immediately. She goes, I just need to get out of here. She goes, I just hope they do this quick. I need to get out of here. The whole time she's like, I feel like I'm going to get sick. She actually made it through without getting sick. But she was at if we would have been 5 minutes longer inside the prison, oh, she was tossing her cookies. It was, she goes, I can't do this anymore. I said, Mom, it's because you're not supposed to be here. And the funny thing was I first thought it's just my mom, because she didn't want to see. Well, my husband's a little bit of a skeptic. And we came back a couple of years later. We came on my birthday. It was a birthday present for me and also a birthday present for my best friend, to investigate Mansfield in one of their public events. And my husband had caught a cold prior to this coming in. Well, when we went in and toured the facility and started to get to investigate, he got physically sick too, to the point where he literally had to go out to our Jeep and rest and sleep until we went back to the hotel. Like, his cold was so much more magnified. Because, and I said, well, they didn't want you there because you being skeptic would have prevented anything from happening from me and my friend, who wanted to see what was in there. But that event was a little too overpopulated. There was a lot of people.
Yeah, that's not good.
Yeah, so I want to go back and I want to do private again where it's less people.
Yeah. So when you do a reading for, say, one person in particular, what are you trying to hone in on? Are you trying to hone in on like a past loved one or something like that, or just?
For me, what I like to do is I try to match my energy field with that person. So like if I'm reading you, I'm going to bring my energy field to match yours. So that way I can open it up and keep you safe as well as me safe, to let anybody that wants to talk to you, that is your family, that is your loved ones that have passed, to come through. So I don't hone into a specific person, because sometimes there's times where I've been in readings where they were like, oh, I wish so-and-so would have came through. And I was like, well, how long ago did they pass? Because it doesn't feel like they've been over there very long. And they'll sit there and go, oh yeah, within the last year or so. And I was like, okay, problem with that is sometimes when you have a person who's freshly passed, and if they've officially made the crossover, if they've officially went to heaven, they are still doing things over there before they can come back to be with us. So you'll have somebody like grandpa or grandma or mom or dad or cousin or aunt or somebody who come through for them because they can't be there yet.
Oh, okay.
I recently did an investigation where this was a week or so ago, where the woman was still grieving. Things were happening in her house. We got some weird EMF readings. We've got some weird audio, and we figured out the homeowner that first originally owns the house loves to come back and visit. She loves her home. She would come back and visit it. And and I asked her, I said, do small things in your bedroom like rings or bracelets, necklaces, mostly jewelry, do those move around a lot? And she goes, yeah, especially if I don't put them in my jewelry box. I said, yeah, she was very meticulous because things belonged in their place. Especially jewelry needs, and she goes, yeah, they usually end up back in the jewelry box. If she doesn't
on their own.
The original homeowner, she moved them there. But there was a male spirit that I couldn't hone on. It didn't feel organic to the environment, but it didn't feel like that they were trapped, like a ghost, like somebody who didn't cross over, doesn't know their past kind of thing. So it took a little bit to find out that her spouse had passed of COVID. And when he died, he asked her to be okay or told her that he was okay with whatever was coming, that he needed her to be okay too. Because she had addiction issues in the past and stuff, and he helped her get better and helped her get clean. His concern was for him or for her.
Yeah.
And she goes, I told him, yeah, I was okay, but deep down inside, she wasn't. And as we were talking, she got very, very much stuck in that grief of, it's my fault, blaming herself. And immediately the first thing I knew to say was, this wasn't your fault. Sometimes we can't stop it from happening. We just have to embrace it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, comes to find out, he knows he's gone, but he's waiting for her to be okay so he can cross into heaven.
Wow.
Because when we had our conversation, I took a plastic bag off the table and I said, let's say this plastic bag is his item. And I tell you, I said, I'm not going to do this, but I tell you, I'm going to take this out of the house. How would that make you feel? And she goes, no, can't. I was like, but it's a plastic bag, but it's his. And I said, but you're not listening to me. It's a plastic bag. And she goes, but you're taking him away from me. And I was like, bingo. This is why you're holding on, is instead of, because you can't have him here physically, you're turning his things into him.
And
So
that was that
mentally,
preventing him from moving on?
With her grief, yeah, because he was worried about her addictive personality, that he didn't want her to slip down. He wanted to be there to support her because he still loved her. He still loves her. Just like they all still love us over the side when they're on the other side. It's just it's like, but his concern was still ever, which is kind of a romantic thing, the fact that his concern was still for her. And I said, he will, and she got upset because she said, my daughter and I lit a candle. He has to be crossed. And I said, but you're not listening to me. Like, she got very upset about it. And I said, honey, here's the thing. I'm not saying to you, he's not going to cross, but he needs you to be okay for him to say, okay, now it's time for me to go. Because it might take him some time to come back to you, because they'll eventually come back to us and help us. It's just, he knew when he got greeted, there might be a period where he couldn't be here to help you. So he chose to stay to be here to help you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's very chivalrous. There's not very many men in this world that are like that.
Yeah.
I said, I mean, there's
Especially,
plenty of them, but not enough.
Right. And now we got one that's dead to boot.
Yeah, I said, that's how I said he saw her as the love of his life.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So we're working still with her, and it's baby steps.
Yeah,
because she's ready for when the time comes, because she told me she's got plans on what to do with his things. Like, he has fishing poles and all this stuff that she wants to donate to the veterans, so they would have things to do. And I was like, see, you have a plan. So we know this is not going to be forever stuck in grief, which makes me so much happy to help her work past that. Because we all aren't supposed to be stuck in grief.
True. So by eliminating some of those things that he used to own will help her come out of grief and help him be able to cross over.
When she's ready. She's ready. Because I said, I use the plastic bag as an example, and it showed me, and it's like, I told my lead investigator, Jay, sometimes I feel horrible when I have to use examples like this, but what they try to hide, like her just being upset, it creates anxiety to think about getting rid of his things, where logically I had to use it's a plastic bag as the kind of scenario to get her to open up, to divulge that she manifested his physical being gone into his physical items.
Yeah.
And I was like, that gets you somewhere. And when I left, she was hugging me going, thank God for you. And I was like,
oh,
I try.
I know, right?
I try.
That's awesome.
I don't want to see people stuck in grief. I know how it feels to be stuck in grief. because I grieved for years for my dad, because at 2, you don't know what death is. You don't understand the concept of it. So nobody teaches you how to properly grieve. And by the time you get old enough to understand, everybody thinks, oh, you should be fine. You should be past. You were so young. No, that's not how it works.
Yeah, for sure. Well, is there anything else that you would like to share with everybody? Anything new or?
I like I said, I have started back up paranormal investigating, so I'm excited about that. We have an investigation coming up next weekend in a church. No other team has investigated. It's a Baptist church.
Ooh.
So we're working with another team called Boss. Ours is Ohio Ghost Hunters, Lucas County, and Henry County. So I'm actually not far from Michigan when I go up and help my team.
Cool.
And then we're working with Boss Paranormal down here, and they're at a Fremont. So we're working hand in hand to they help us get, if they get into places and they can't have enough people, they'll reach out to us.
Okay.
And we do the same. We invite them to come investigate, and we share our evidence. And I mean, we're trying to make it's funny because I've, being part of the paranormal, being part of the paranormal in the community in the past, I've seen a lot of paranormal teams be very singular, like it's our team, it's our team, it's our team.
Right.
Where I would love to see more and more teams working together.
Yeah.
Because certain people can get different evidence than what other people can get. It's like watching that show Ghost Brothers. I love them. And when they would go to the plantations, being African American, they'll get different evidence than what a white team would get. I mean, it's a neat, paranormal is a neat field to be a part of because there's so many questions. And you can find out so much interesting history too, if you're willing to listen. And I think we all should work together with that.
Yeah.
That Ghost Brothers episode, though, that one was pretty funny. The one you're talking about, because it was Juan or whatever strips down to his boxers to try to seduce the plantation, the White Witch or whatever.
Yes.
And then they're doing it, and all of a sudden they're getting results. It's a guy. He's like, "Oh, it's a guy." So he's like putting his clothes back on.
Whoops. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
I remember that episode. I love them because they make me laugh. Because, being part of the paranormal team, sometimes we'll just sit around and talk. We're not really asking questions. We'll sit around and talk. We get so much more evidence because we're creating regular life. And I've seen other teams where they've taken things out of the environment, asked the homeowners to not be there, or had animals removed and stuff. And I said, but you're in a way, you're kind of altering the environment that spirit's used to now at this point. So a lot of times we will, if the animals are too noisy, then we'll ask the homeowner if we can put them outside for a short time or something like that. But it's like, we try to keep everything a little organic to that environment because we don't live there.
Sure.
So you got to find the evidence the way they experience it almost. But with our teams, we will be going to the Parapsychon on May 20th and 21st. I'm kind of excited because
Where is that?
It's at Mansfeild Reformatory.
Oh, wow. There you go.
I love it. I'm so excited because I love that place. I say I'm secretly obsessed. It's no secret.
It's no secret, she said.
It's no secret. I love that place. It's just the energy behind it. If you ever get the chance, please come to visit it, because it was a prison, but that's not what it started out. It started out as strictly a reformatory to turn young offenders, young kids, young boys into useful members of society. So it doesn't have a gas chamber or a electric chair. It doesn't have any of that. So it just has a totally different vibe. It's spooky, but yet it's not like going into like a state penitentiary. Like if you've ever been to, what's West Virginia, Moundsville? That one was a state penitentiary where they have an electric chair. There's totally a different vibe.
So that place that you're in love with, what makes it paranormal? Like,
well, murders happened there. Happened there. There were prior to it becoming a prison, it
Mhm.
actually had, if I remember the story, the history correctly, it was a cavalry, not cavalry. It was a fort, or like there's a fort near around that on the facility. There was, and there were hangings that actually happened on the property.
Okay.
I cannot remember the full history. It's been a while since I've had to, but murders did happen. They eventually, it did become a state penitentiary but when the executions happened, they actually took them out to different facilities to do it at.
Okay.
So there was some pretty nasty people that did get incarcerated there. But like I said, the original intent was to have them be useful members of society.
Okay.
And I mean, there is a work, they did tear down most of the old facility and they built the newer working prison behind it. So when you go there, you have to be careful of how you film and stuff, which makes it a little bit fun, but
Sure.
it depends on the time of year you go. I have this interesting theory about the place because it's also in the Guinness Book of World Records for the tallest freestanding prison, because I believe the West Cell Block has 6 tiers high. And it didn't have the best heating and cooling.
Mhm.
So people froze and people
Oh my
baked in that facility. And when the first time I went, I got my digital camera had red pictures. And I'm sitting there going, you can't turn digital pictures red. And it took me about 15 minutes to get my pictures to work, my camera to work right again. And then I talked to a gentleman that was later become ran the ghost tours, and he goes, always the red pictures come back in March. And I was like, so I have a theory on that, where what if it's because it's still cold? What if the fact that the facility didn't properly have like heating and cooling have a lot to do with people being angry, upset, frustrated, and they're showing it? So it's like, I want to go back and investigate during the summer to see if something happens, because that's when people were, baking in there. It was hot. Yeah. You're in a stone prison, for crying out loud. And it's
it's like a little oven. It's like an oven.
Up you are, the worse it is.
Yeah. And no proper ventilation either. I mean, it's interesting to think with a lot of some of these older buildings, what you get, what's possible if you think about the time of year and what was going on for them. I don't know. It's just my theory is maybe it's had to do with the red pictures have something to do with the cold.
Yeah. You should go back to a different time of year and take some more pictures and see what happens.
Well, I know with May, when I went May, it was not as active, but we also had a lot more people. So it's like,
try
to do it with less people.
Sure. Well, we want to say too that Tonya is going to be joining us more often as a third co-host when we have guests on. So welcome, Tonya. We're so happy that you can be with us on a more permanent basis. So this was a good introduction to kind of let everybody know who Tonya is, even though we had her on a previous show. So she's super interesting, and we love to have you. So
I am so excited, and I'm hoping now that is officially announced.
Yes.
When I go to Parapsychon, I'm going to try my best to get the Ghost Brothers to join us.
Yay.
They're going to be at Parapsychon. So
yep. Do it.
That would be awesome. If I secretly to be in there and go, hi, I've been wanting to meet you, but
yeah.
That
would be great. I found out with them before at Michigan Paracon. They're really cool.
I'm one of those people, when I talk to people who've been in the paranormal field, like your guys is, I love your story where you met somebody wearing a Ghostbuster and was like, how do I get to be a part of that? Everybody's got their own story. Yeah, as I said, I love that. Everybody's got their own story with what gets them fascinated and what makes them want to be a part of this field. That, there's a lot of people that are skeptics, and they're my favorite kind of people to talk to. But there's also so many people that there's so much that happens. It's hard. How can you can't scientifically explain that away.
Right. We've had plenty of people like that before.
And that's why I was like, I'd love to talk to them and get to hear their stories, because you see them on the shows, but they don't really tell them what tells their past, what happened to them. And
Yep.
I don't know. It makes me, I'm sorry.
You're going to learn so much by being on this show. It's going to be amazing.
See, the one thing I'm really excited to learn more about, and I'm not gonna lie, is I have a cousin who's like, he loves like Sasquatch. And
oh yeah,
he's 6'10". I'm like, you are a Sasquatch, honey.
Yes, you are.
Just
we have quite a few people that are into Sasquatch and Bigfoot, don't we, Brandon?
I am interested to definitely learn more about that, because it was always, I've had experiences with many things, but I've never like a cryptid. Yeah. I've not had a cryptid experience.
Okay.
So
well, when Brandon went on a camping excursion to find Bigfoot. Well, how long ago was that, Brandon?
I've done it the last 2 years. We usually do it kind of like the end of summer. So like once that way, like there's not as many people in the campground. I'm up in the UP, so.
But you're in the middle of nowhere. Like
5 miles to the nearest house, the spot where we go to. So you're way away from everybody.
Well, it fascinates me to think, because I mean, I believe in anything is possible, especially extraterrestrial and those kind of things. My mom used to make fun of me because I had all this alien stuff in the 90s in my room, and my mom thought I was hysterical, and now she's calling me up because she'll watch that ancient histories, and she's like, oh my gosh, all this alien influence. I was like, and you made fun of me.
Yeah. In the hieroglyphics, right? There's
the Mayans and the Incans, the stuff they've got coming out of there.
Yeah, like makes you wonder, doesn't it?
I didn't realize it was so in depth. Like they have it in stone carvings.
Yeah, and I've seen that.
Gosh,
yeah,
like,
evidence.
I've always been fascinated with that, and of course, it kind of goes hand in hand. The more you get into like ghosts and paranormal, like you think maybe there's something else. But Sasquatch was one I never got to like myself researching, but I find it fascinating to talk to people that do, because it's what they're interested in it.
We'll have to get that one guy back on, Brandon. What's his name?
Yeah, Phil Shaw, and we've had Rich Meyer.
Phil Shaw.
Yeah.
And another one I've always found, I have found this one interesting, was the Mothman, because I'm not far from Point Pleasant.
So who's our Mothman expert, Brandon?
That'd probably be Shatan.
That's what I was thinking.
I think she's written on Mothman before. So.
Because I mean, when you look into it, it's not just Point Pleasant that had an experience. There's more experiences of a Mothman-like creature.
Yeah.
Around the world. I mean, it's fascinating to see that. It's easy to think like Americans are crazy, but when you sit there and think,
you know, we've had Shatan on umpteen times, and she's talked about numerous different cryptids. So maybe we need to have her on, Brandon, so we can just have like a Mothman episode just for Tonya. I will say,
there is one more cryptid I'm secretly obsessed with, is Nessie. Ness monster.
She investigates sightings because there's the Champy, the Lake Champlain one, and she went there last summer to go investigate that.
But Nessie has my heart for some reason. She got me interested in looking into the others, but I've always just been fascinated with those. But it's one of those things that I love. The one thing I tell people all the time with anything paranormal is you're learning something new, and you're opening your mind and broadening it to possibilities of things that can't. Eventually, after so much, because you guys being paranormal investigators, our first thing is to debunk first.
Right.
If we can't debunk it, what the heck is it? Let's try to find out. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like when we were doing like the house, we were getting those EMF readers were going nuts on fishing poles, and and on toolbox, and I was pulling up the toolbox, and I was like, there's nothing electrical. And they're like, well, this is a newer, my one investigator was like, this is a newer one. What if it's plugged in? So we checked to make sure that it wasn't plugged in. This thing was not plugged in. It had no electrical reason for it to be going nuts. And we were even holding it out in the middle of the room where there's absolutely nothing electrical nearby. It was going nuts. Like, so there's something going on. That is my favorite kind of thing. It's like going to Mansfield. I said, I will talk about Mansfield forever. Because when you go in there, there is no electrical current, and you will get these systems just going nuts. There's no possible way. So it's like, what's going on? I love the questions. I love to find out. And
yeah, I investigated the Felt Mansion.
I've heard of that place, and I've wanted to go.
Yeah, so my daughter and I did an investigation there right around October, and we were having EMF readings too, like just these random places, like in the middle of a bedroom, like there was nothing there, you know, there, you couldn't debunk it, like it was the weirdest thing, like we're not near any sort of energy source anywhere around here, and it's like, how do you explain that?
You scientifically, there's no way other than paranormal.
Exactly.
Other than spirit.
I even showed, it was kind of like we were part of a tour, and I showed the tour operator, who was very familiar with the house and the history and all that kind of stuff. And I said, how do you explain this? He goes, I can't. He goes, I can't, you know.
I'm with you on that. I'm usually the first person that people bring up evidence, like pictures, and they're like, look at what I caught. And I'll sit there and go, I'm the first one I can't see in a picture as easily. No. I have one from a Charlotte. I went to visit my cousin that lives in Charlotte. We went on a ghost tour, and I have a picture. I'll have to get it printed off. I'm pretty behind on, but you can see a male face, and it looks like you see his eyes down to his nose, and then like it elongates, and then you see him like after the elongation, the mouth and the chin. And I was like, I'm the first person to say I don't see anything. I see that face.
Oh yeah,
I see that. And then when I was showing it to some of the other people on the tour, the woman goes, I don't see anything. And I was like, I'm that person usually.
I see it. I'm not supposed to be seeing it, but I do.
I mean, I saw it very clearly. And I'm the first one, like I said, if people show me pictures of orbs, I'm like, dust. I'll be that person. But a lot of the times, there's times like in another case in Mansfield, I have to say, when I went to my first investigation in March, also had the best atmosphere because fog was rolling in around the facility. Love that atmosphere. Wow. There's times where it's like, where I took a picture, I showed it to my sisters. And at this time, you know, it's your first investigation. You don't know, you should take spurts of pictures in the same spot. Now I do. But I had a light source in an area where I was the only one near it. Everybody else that was taking the tours behind me. And where there was a light, the light was like this, the orb was a light source. There was no other light source except for the exit sign, which was like 4 feet above it. There was no light socket. Like, I'm going over there, checking it, going, okay, what's going on here? Because that shouldn't be there.
Right.
And because normally my first reaction is dust, because we're in a dusty facility anyway.
Big time.
But that was the only thing in that picture. I was like, that's not dust.
That's weird.
I also have an interesting video. I haven't posted it, but I kind of kept it to myself because I didn't really get to video it as well as I wanted to video it to investigate, like to make sure. But I was with a friend at the Toledo Zoo, and we were inside one of their indoors exhibits, and they have taxidermied ducks, taxidermied ducks hanging from the thing. And in my video, you can see one of the ducks doing this number, like shaking back and forth. So I videoed the duck behind it, not moving, the duck beside it, not moving. And then I turned it off because I was like looking around. I was like, where's an air current? What could be causing this duck to move? There was nothing there. It was the only one doing it. I showed my friend the video of it moving. And of course, she's like, what is it? And I said, that's the question. What is it? I said, I can't find out right now. Too many people around.
That's really cool. Okay.
Everybody
well,
give kind of a closing thing. Just gonna finish up with make sure to check out the Grand Rapids Ghost Hunters. We have a Facebook page. If you want to check that out and like that, I did start a Jose Paranormal History Productions, which covers more of both kind of the podcast and other paranormal content, as well as other stuff on my YouTube channel. And my YouTube channel is Jose Paranormal History Productions as well. So you can go and check that out for all the past episodes of the Grand Rapids Ghost Hunters podcast and some investigation videos and stuff. The two of you have anything else that you want to add as kind of a closing or final thoughts?
I'm just excited to get to work with you guys. This will be a good thing. Less rivalry from Michigan and Ohio. And more fun.
Yeah.
You betcha. Well, like I said, you're going to learn a lot. I can't tell you how many stories I've heard about cryptids and Bigfoots, and some of my favorite ones are when I get a reading myself, or yeah, just that sort of thing. I've loved all the personal touches that I've gotten over the years.
Well,
So-
Family-owned Palermo Pizza underwrites this episode of Grand Rapids Ghost Hunters Paranormal Podcast, located at 901 Gazan Parkway, Southwest Wyoming, and available at 616-531-8300.
The opinions expressed in the preceding program are those of the producer and not necessarily those of WKTV Community Media.